And it's recording.
Boom.
Right.
Thank
Yes. Yeah. So I'll be just relatively quick here.
you.
Yeah. So like, I definitely second a lot of what Seamus and Yasha had to say. I think like if we want to stick to, I think for me the collaborative and performer composer environment was definitely what is definitely just an incredible thing about JCI, and is just a huge part of the community aspect of it as well. I think
substituting online pulls that ability to be a performer and a composer, and that's our challenge, I think.
Right. I mean, I think and I think doing having like solo and electronic music themes are definitely ways of making it possible to kind of do both, but not necessarily simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, but like I wouldn't necessarily generalize there.
We could, Max, here's the question for you, is that if we had took Sam's idea or even expanded it to more than one instrument, maybe a full chamber ensemble, and we did a live Zoom session of reading sessions like we would typically do with our professional ensembles, we could still go ahead with that and do those as Zoom sessions where people could talk back and forth.
Yeah. Would
that be something that would work to make it authentic experience out of what we've done in the past?
I don't know for sure. I know that there are, sorry, excuse me, one of my messages are just kind of going nuts right now. All right, so I think that's I think it's possible. I know that there are performance organizations like associated with Brown and that are popping up online that are going to try to do that, and I'm happy to just kind of observe and participate and see what could potentially be transferable to JC for the summer. I think but I think that it's still a little bit like, there are a series of things that are happening less so than just sort of this communal JCI experience. I mean, I think, I mean, if anybody, potentially we could like consider at least like sort of one-off projects where, say, everybody does for example, a text-based score that could be performed over Zoom together, or something along those lines. I'm kind of spitballing here, so yeah. Audio.
Rando, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. That's what the thought problem is addressing, is to allow you some time to think about how we might do that. Hi, Ryan.
Hey.
We're just finishing up with Max and Jacob, who have to leave in 7 minutes. So we're going to keep going, and people are going to peel off as they need to. But I'm going to get around to asking you all of the questions we've discussed up to now. Is that okay? Ryan? Yeah. Ryan? Yes. Okay. Good. I appreciate your comment, and add more, Max, if you hear any more. Jacob, I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as your first question about just what are the highlights from my junior composer do with being all together, the late night hangout sessions, all that, but on top of that, the camaraderie that's built. And so we've already kind of established that that's not going to be possible technologically. But on top of that, for me, some of my highlights and the things that helped me the most were, for example, the tight deadlines to have to write a piece in a short amount of time. And that's something that's still absolutely possible. Definitely the wearing many hats aspect, that we had to not only be a composer, but also be a performer and an amanuensis and a conductor if necessary, you know, and we can hang out in the library and read scores. And I mean, there's just all of this, there was this multifaceted, you know, multiplicity of things that you could do that is, I think, important for a modern musician. So that is definitely still possible. Learning how to run a rehearsal, that's another one. It was huge that I feel totally comfortable now in a professional setting going in and saying, okay, we got a half an hour to rehearse this piece. I know because of junior composers how to prioritize, how to communicate with the performers, you know, that's been essential. The other thing that comes to mind is working with guest composers or guest ensembles. And that was huge, just to kind of get your foot in that door. And that, I think, is something that's possible now too, that you might actually be able to get more people in as guests, or even, you know, we'd like to have this person as a guest composer, but we can't get them because it's too much for them to travel and to get room. So we have to have this person come in instead because it's cheaper. Now they don't have to, you know, you don't have to pay for their room and board and whatever. So that might open up possibilities with who can be worked with. As far as doing music with Zoom, I would kind of be hesitant about that. The experiences that I've had, I mean, I'm in an ear training course right now, and we try to do that in Zoom, and it's just horrible. I mean, everything's distorted. Our professor tries to have us say things back in unison, and everybody's lagging, and then you try to slow down to pace the audio, and it's just tough to do any kind of musical work, at least in my experience with Zoom. So perhaps Zoom will only be for, you know, lessons and classes. I think it would work well with theory.
Could you, Jacob, could you check out a website called Tone Savvy and look at the ear training component of that?
Okay.
I think that Tone Savvy is the site. I'm using it in instruction as homework for ear training.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Just for information.
Yeah. So I mean, I think. Yeah. No, I just got it. So that's cool. But so I guess that's my general reflections. I mean, I love the idea, the fact that we had film music and all the JCS stuff. I'm assuming that will still be happening, and you know, to keep those projects and to keep the tight deadlines and the involvement is still going to be possible. It's just going to be tough, like everybody said.
There are a couple of things I'd ask both Jacob and Max, because you're on either side of me in this gallery thing. Hi, Mary Kate. I'll get to you in a second. If you guys, Ryan, could you mute your microphone for a second? We have internet warp out stuff happens when all of our mics are open. For Max and Ryan, or Jacob, what I did not hear is that frequent lessons were not an essential experience for you. Is that true? If you had relatively fewer lessons, individual lessons, would that matter?
I actually think that would be important. I didn't even think of that because I just kind of considered it a given. But yeah, that was, I mean, having you hold my feet to the fire was very essential in me getting stuff done. So,
yeah. What about you, Max?
I don't really have too many thoughts on that immediately.
Okay. All right. So. Ear training experience is horrible on Zoom. I'm putting in the chat window here. I'm reading some of the notes. Our rehearsals were 10 to 15 minutes, not ever. I don't think we ever got a real half-hour rehearsal.
Right.
But tight deadlines, I get.
I meant now when I get a rehearsal that's a half an hour long, I can say, "Wow, this is luxurious."
Yeah, I know. the 10 to 15 minute rehearsal guest composers, we could potentially, one of the things that Yasha was saying, there's some opportunities online, we could have many more composers, guest composers from all over the world. So it's possible for this to be expanded and we wouldn't be limited in that way. Frequent lessons, I had a question about ear training. I had the main issues from Seamus, Max, Yasha, actually all of you, and I haven't heard from the guys at the bottom of my grid are Mary Kate and Ryan. So I will talk to you guys in a minute. But the collaborative thing, the community building thing, set aside the listening to Mahler, set aside the PDQ Bach things, set aside those things, the games and hanging out and watching movies or whatever those things are. That's potentially possible because these sessions with all of us here have ability to break off into smaller sessions and it be monitored by the Zoom manager. So right. The manager can go through all of these various groups and you could start getting to work in a smaller setting. The idea of having collaboration is possible that way. It's also possible to have an actual ensemble in a room that's separated by 6+ feet and reading through pieces, either as Max suggests in advance, you know, an assignment, like a studio assignment that a guest composer would give you a prompt and then you would then write a piece in 3 days. And we could have sessions each day or we could have however that's organized.
Randall, hey, I hate to interrupt you. I have to run right now. Bye. So if there's any more questions, send them my way, but I will type up all this. So thank you guys. Good to see you.
And same thing with you, Max. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I can hang around for a couple minutes, but
okay.
then
the idea of this is there is this assignment that I invited you to do. Let me look at this one more time. Is this the thing? No, that's the thing there. Here's the document again. I'm putting up, sharing it. There are some questions about an there's baseline questions that I'd like each one of you to answer now, right? I mean, as soon as you have a time of 5 minutes, it shouldn't take very long to get through that. And then there's a 5-minute assessment at the end of this call that I'd like you to do. So that's going to be also shared with you on the Facebook chat that we had going, or the Facebook group that we had going on before. So if you could do that, that would be great. I really appreciate the time that you've put together just to allow you, to be part of this. I'm going to keep talking here for Ryan and Mary Kate. Mary Kate, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, good. Oh, there you are. Got it. And I'd like to invite you all to stay. But Max, is there any other things we've talked about the authentic JCI experience up here under the discussion? Recollections of, part of it was the relationship that you established with people like Maria Jetty or Philip Brunel or those sorts of things where you actually get to talk to them. We may be able to do that possibly, do you think, online?
Yeah, totally. I think, and I think that the online could also make it a little bit easier for current JCI folks and like JC alumni to connect possibly.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. I want to put you on the thought problem on that. I've wondered if any of you would be interested in mentoring some of the students, the current students in junior composers this year. Would you be available? Would you be interested in working with those students?
I mean, I currently literally do not have anything planned until mid-August. So yes, and I'd love to do that, obviously. So.
And that would be possible to have 1 or 2 students that you could mentor that would spread. I mean, if we put it all on Sarah Miller, Seth, me, we wouldn't be able to do all of the things that we would normally do face-to-face because there's only so much time, and also technology has some difficulties as you've experienced just today. So that might be something I would invite you to consider in your thought problem response.
I think I'm going to eat. Yeah, nice talking to all y'all.
Nice to talk to you. I'll talk to you soon, Max.
Hey, Max.
Bye.
And you guys left. Is it all right if I don't share this any longer, this big document over here, or do you need it? You can take off your mute. We can talk.
Randall, you'll post it to our Facebook group chat, correct?
These,
Okay.
I've already posted the agenda, the assessment question and the baseline question. I will also share with you guys.
Okay.
Okay. Could one of you sort of bring these guys up to date, Mary Kate and Ryan? What have we covered so far regarding? Well, let me. First of all, say we've talked about who we are, what we're doing. Where are you right now, Mary Kate and Ryan? Where are you?
So I'm currently in Mason City, Iowa. This is my first year teaching. I'm teaching 5th grade through 12th grade band at Newman Catholic. So yeah, I live a busy lifestyle until now. It's kind of weird teaching online. So
yeah, well, you're going to be very important to have feedback on the online experience that's covered in the baseline questions. We'll talk about that in a second. What are your plans
Randall,
for this?
would you be able to stop sharing your screen so that I can better see Mary Kate and Ryan?
You bet. That's what I really was asking. There you go. Is that better?
Yes.
Good. So the question I was trying to get to was, what was I trying to say? Oh,
you said something about summer.
Yeah. What are your plans for the summer, Mary Kate?
That's kind of up in the air right now. Originally, I was hoping to play in the 2 muni bands here in Mason City and Clear Lake.
Mm-hmm.
But now that's kind of up in the air with how the corona develops. So I'm hoping that it kind of dies down a little bit so that I can still be involved in those. But other than that, I was hoping to be a counselor at Junior Composers again. But and then like end of July, I'll probably have to test my 5th graders for their instruments. Normally we do that in May, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends what happens the next couple weeks. So
Okay, Ryan, I want to hear your answers to these questions. Where are you right this minute?
Sound.
Ryan?
you're muted, Ryan.
Ryan, take off your mute. There we go. I've done that twice already, so not a problem. Where are you right now?
I am at my house in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Got it. And what are you doing these days?
I am looking to do my master's degree. I applied for schools in the fall, and I've gotten decisions back. And so I've been thinking about where I'd like to go.
Waiting to hear about graduate degrees?
But yes, I heard back from Boston Conservatory and Manus.
Good.
And so I'm leaning more on the Boston side of things.
And what
so I've been doing some preliminary searches for like housing,
right,
and thinking about that.
What are your plans for the summer of 2020?
Well, I have a part-time job working at a grocery store, and that's basically my only commitments during the summer. I am trying to see if I can attend the Source Song Festival in the beginning of August, but I'm not sure how that's going to play out if the virus is still it's very serious. But
right, so,
other than that, I am very available.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate both of you adding. And I'm recording both of the sessions. I'll share the MP4 with the group so that we'll all be able to have a chance to look at it. The baseline questions that are asked are, what do you think the most successful online experience you've had right now? And I'd like you to answer the 3 baseline questions ASAP, so that in 6 weeks when I come back and we put this group together, we'll have some experience that we'll be able to compare it with. So what did you experience before coronavirus, and what are you going to experience 6 weeks into coronavirus is basically the question. And also, what's the least successful? And then we want you to give some details about that experience, the best and the worst. And then what are the best practices that you know, that you've gained a knowledge about, that would make the authentic junior composers experience? So I'd like to go back to that question, which is on our document that I shared, a recollection of your experiences that encapsulate the best of your personal JCI experience. And Yasha, for example, started earlier and said, you know, the idea of that musical draft when you get to pick the players is a strong recollection. His suggestion on the thought problem question, which is something you'll do on your own, is maybe we should do something with electronic music as the theme for this year, with all kinds of ways of sharing and multi-tracking and all sorts of things. So that's something, and also that an idea that he had was an online JCI would expand the audience for our master classes, our salon sessions, even our rehearsals or reading sessions. It could be a wider thing, and maybe we could get donations for that. So I'll go to in reverse order from what last happened. Well, Ryan, do you have any ideas or experiences that encapsulate the best experience from JCI?
Well, I think that I did JCI at a very important time in my formative years. I had just recently started composing, and I hadn't really known anybody who was a composer. And so going to this program and meeting so many like-minded people, at first I was actually kind of nervous about it, because being on the older scale of things, I thought that, oh, it might be hard to relate to these people who are a few years younger than me. But it tended to not be the case, and I was welcomed into the arms of the community very well. I would say that a lot of the things that Jacob said in the chat is something that are all things that I agree with. The tight deadlines were very impactful for me, because whenever you're writing music not on a deadline, your brain goes through different processes in comparison to when you are like essentially forced to write something. Then your brain starts to make different circuits and shortcuts, and you start to see things in different ways. I think that was a very impactful thing for me.
I'm just going through this list of people I can see in front of me. I remember early on Yasha's experience of writing his music that almost always had a sense of humor, but that was very quickly written. It's almost a draft approach to doing music. We would oftentimes advise people, you can finish this later. I know this is true for Sam. We would start a piece and there was some really good stuff there and we would do it, but we would also say, and you can work on this later, was also the thing. So is that true both for Sam and Yasha?
Yeah.
Well, I could say along the, sorry, Sam, do you want to go?
No, you can go first.
I was just going to say, yeah, I just remember spending all those hours in practice rooms being like, oh my God, I got to get this done by tomorrow or 2 days from now. So I do feel like that is a really important skill, along with kind of that relates to what Jacob was saying. You have such limited time, with rehearsals, you have 10, 15 minutes, you got to get your players in order, getting everything that needs to happen. So I do feel like whatever happens this summer, if it's online, it should still retain that sense of pacing so that people learn how to manage rehearsals in 20 minutes, and it'll be really hard.
15 minutes was the longest rehearsal. 10 minutes was the short rehearsal.
It will definitely be hard when you are just at home and, there's not really anything you got to go and run off to. That's so urgent. But yeah, like it's going to be hard to have people be like, okay, I am at home, but I'm going to be working on this. No one bought, and it is hard. Cause, for example, me, I'm at home with my family. My family asked me to go help make dinner, go eat dinner with them. You know what I mean? Like there's things that happen that will just inevitably not be the same. Another moment I just wanted to point out, I mean, obviously, whatever, but like when you mentioned Maria Jetty, you know, we had a great moment with her. I remember like 6 of us just chatting outside, like before one of the concerts. So like those kind of moments where like you just bump into someone and then strengthen a relationship will not be able to happen. But maybe we can think of like how to use these tools and technology to make other things that could never happen when it was happening in real life, you know?
That's a great point. Sam, did you have a point? Yeah, thanks, Seamus.
Sort of, Yasha summarized most of it probably better than I could, but yeah, I agree with all of what he said, and also I think going off what you said, when we worked on my pieces together at Junior Composers, prioritizing and what should be worked on, saving what for later, and how to schedule how to schedule the composition of the piece throughout the entire week.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as like what Jacob said, prioritizing rehearsals and what to prioritize, what to work on when working on a new piece, which has been very helpful since I've had a lot of experience with that at Lawrence in the past year and a half.
I don't know what Seamus, what his secret was, but he always had a composition that was done, not on the first draft, but it was a composition, and then you'd make additions and on this thing. Seamus's style, different than Sam, different than Yasha, different than all of us, including me. Seamus is conceptually goes boink, and then it's like a thing, and more like Jacob. I would say he would have the same approach. Seamus, how would you capture your experience in a session? I mean, how did you work? That's different than this tight deadline thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought I was very facilitated by the tight deadlines also. For the record, I'm retrospectively not that happy with most of the composition work that I produced at JCI. That doesn't make me any less happy with the experience overall, because having to write things very quickly and
so you wrote it quickly and rejected it out of hand. Okay, I get you.
while performing other people's things, like that was still a wonderful experience for me.
Yep.
And it's definitely more perfected my skills of being able to write things quickly when I want to. But just wanted to offer that caveat.
Thank you. You learn some things. I think this is Yasha's point. There are some things you learn at JCI that you've learned that, but that's not everything that you're going to do. That's not every way of writing music.
Of course.
This is just a thing. Yes. And Mary Kate, I want to come back to Ryan here in a second, but Mary Kate, early on, we've got 10 minutes left in this conversation, so I want to make sure we do get a chance to hear from everybody. Did you have anything that you said, here's the quintessential experience from my point of view as a composer, as opposed to as an instructor or counselor?
You know, since I went so many years, looking back, it's cool to see how much quicker I got at composing, because like my first year is like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Oh my god.
My second year
I remember
is like,
that
I don't
year.
know what the heck I'm doing. And then like by the year that I went to studio was when I actually felt like I had some sort of understanding of how to get it done and how to actually write music. And I don't know, that was when I started to notice composing started to click more for me, where it went less from improvisation and more to a methodical approach. Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I want to think too, how does this Junior Composers Year 2020 flow into 2021 or 2022? Depending on how long coronavirus lasts, it will go back, and what changes what reforms will we have in our approach as if we're able to be face-to-face again?
I shared an article on my Facebook just now. You can probably go find it. It's really good. It's like a lot of experts on there saying how coronavirus will change the world permanently. Government, society, politics, business, anything. And basically, I think that reading that could provide a lot of inspiration for this. I mean, I think that you would find out if you really tried to leverage and lasso or whatever you want to say, all of the technologies available, and you'll find a lot of them actually work really well for a lot of things. For example, you might like having publicly streamed masterclasses that engage people from across the country and world, and then things that you find work the best or were the most effectual or are the best bang for your buck, like, you know, the lowest cost on your end, but you get supporters and donations or whatever. Maybe you want to keep those things forever, perpetually.
Awesome. Mary Kate, did you have a chance to say anything else besides that method, you know what I mean? Methodical. What, did you have any other experiences you wanted to share? As a counselor.
As a counselor, it was, you know, I have like these multiple parallels of all the things that I've learned at camp, like from the composition hat, from the playing hat, and from the teaching hat. And I think, I mean, if you think about it, like you're working with musicians to get them to understand what is in your brain, and that's so hard to do. And I think from a teaching standpoint, that really helped me learn how to teach, because it's like you can't just put stuff on a page and expect people to understand. It's like you have to figure out how to translate what's in your brain and what you're hearing to make sense to other people. Yeah, does that answer your question? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Okay.
Ryan, did you have any, now that you've listened to various talking points, did you have anything else that you wanted to say that was essential to your experience? We had composition lessons, we had theory, we had salons where people would talk on a topic, readings by professional ensemble, individual composition lessons. I'm just going the draft, which is what Yasha mentioned. Is there anything that you remember or that's a highlight from your experience? You should push the mute button. There we go.
I would say that I think one of the things that has lasted with me ever since are the friendships that I've made.
Yeah.
Like there's still a handful of JCIers that I know that we keep in contact, and we have long group chats, and we write each other music still.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the friendships that I've made in JCI have informed how I think about music. And as being a composer, we have very solitary roles, or we feel like we're just working in solitude a lot of the time. But having a very strong friendship of other composers who I can really like let all my feelings out to, and all of my concerns about music, and like they all understand it. I think that helps me stay afloat in while like engaging with society, knowing that I belong somewhere and that other people care about me and I care about them. It really enhances like the experience of going through trying to make a career in music. And I think that with like this online platform of doing things, I think you still have the opportunity to develop deep connections with people. It's just that it's not in person. So if there was some way to create a kind of correspondence between the students online, that would I don't know, would help get people to know each other better.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be very essential to me, I think.
This is a great entree into we've got about 3 minutes to go and we'll be done. The thought problem, which is the third thing on the list of the agenda today, is to say, ask each one of you to imagine JCI 2020, Junior Composers 2020. Take about 30 minutes to think through all of the things that you experience, and I would include theory and theory lessons and composition lessons and individual compositions lessons and the salons and the readings and the rehearsals and the first reading Wednesday and the draft and the salons, the things at the end of studio, the end of the institute when we had performances. All of the aspects that you have, can you imagine Junior Composers 2020 and take about what your aspirations would be, both using the technology. Speculative, crazy ideas would be welcomed. Completely broad guest composers we had and guest ensembles. Think out of the box. Don't be stuck in saying, oh, who's in Minnesota? We're on the internet. We could get people from anywhere in the world. Is there a Tajikistan composer in residence that we could have? Is there a percussion ensemble in Japan that we should have do readings? Think broadly, because I think what Yasha was saying earlier is that once we change this model for junior composers, we are not going back. This is only moving forward in some interesting ways. We're going to hold on to the things that are essential, the authentic experiences, but we may alter this to be a completely different experience for people. And I really think it may be beneficial to each one of us in junior composers, all of the alumni, and maybe we stop thinking just in terms of kids 14 to 20 years old. Maybe there's a way of thinking this outside of the, not only geography of this, but also the age range of this, the experiences that we might be having. So I invite you to imagine what 2020 might do that would then play itself out over years. Gesundheit, Yasha. I can't hear what you said, but okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was scared I wasn't muted there.
There is an assessment as well that I'd like you to take. A minute of filling. The 3 parts are participation. How did this work for you? Even the difficulty of getting signed on, the 40-minute length of everything. Be critical, because what we do in the future will be depending on how critical and how much praise you ladle onto us. It's also how critical you are to this process, and it'll inform how we might set up best practices. Also, it includes, second point is inclusion. Who should be included in these sessions? Is it better to have small groups? This is just 5 of us and me. I'm not counting myself as one, but there's 5. Should it be 20? Should it be 200? Depends on what you're, and then who should be invited to our Facebook page as well. And I would open this now, Mary Kate, to